I'm Joe Green and I'm from JBG Quantity Surveying. I'd like to thank you for clicking on this link and taking time out of your day to watch this video. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the importance and the advantages of reviewing the project documents prior to starting on site and prior to signing the contract agreement. Reviewing the documents prior to starting on site will save you time, will save you money, and will save you on disputes with other parties during the construction process. So the four main topics I'll be covering in the video include design, contracting, the builder's capacity and capability to carry out the project, and getting the costings right at the start of a project. So I've been working in the construction industry for the last 20 years, with 12 of those years working for Tier 1 builders on construction sites. I've had first-hand experience of what can go wrong if there's problems with the costings, the contracting, the design, or the builder's capability or capacity to complete the project. I have personally been involved in projects where there's been issues with the design, the contract, the costings, and the builder's capability. And I know from her first-hand experience how it affects the builders and how it affects the developers on site. So one project in particular was a $10 million loss on a $40 million project. At the time, it was the biggest loss incurred for a single project for that company. The main reasons that that project incurred such significant losses was due to poor design, unfair contracting, and getting the costs at the start of the project incorrect. So the first area I'll cover in the video is the design. Now your design covers all the documents required to complete the project, including your drawings, your specifications, your schedules, your reports, your conditions of your approvals. It's important that your consultants have provided design certificates to state that all the design complies with the relevant Australian standards and statutory authorities. One project I was working on didn't have a geotech report provided, so the engineer had assumed the conditions of the site and made a note on the drawings to review the site conditions prior to commencing construction works. At the time, I was working for the builder as a project manager. We engaged the geotech to come out to the site to do the inspection. Once we received the results back, they were vastly different to what the engineer had allowed for in his design. The engineer was required to go back and carry out a redesign of the project, and he provided us with two new designs. The first one involved constructing concrete poles, and the second one was to remediate the site. Remediating the site involved excavating down to 1 metre underneath the building platform, removing that material from site, importing new material, compacting in layers, and constructing the building on the new substrate. We went away and we did a cost analysis to find out what the most cost-effective option was. It came back and it was found that remediating the site was the most economical. Now, by the time the design was done, the management fee and the construction works were completed, the overall cost to the developer for that project was $500,000. Now that could be the difference between the site being feasible or not feasible. Another project I was working on, I was a contract administrator for the builder at the time. Now the builder had decided to take on the project at 50% design complete and take it on as a design and construct. There were issues all the way through the project with not being able to continue with work because we were waiting for the design to come back from the consultant. At the end of the project, once the fit had been completed, the final clean had been done, and the inspection and test planning had all been carried out, and we're doing our final walk around with the building certifier, it was found at that time that the building required fire sprinklers. We were required to go back, put a design together, and install fire sprinklers into a finished building. This process resulted in a cost of about $400,000, taking into account the design, the construction time frame, and the liquidated damage associated with the project delay. So these are just two examples that I can think of that incurred massive losses to a project due to incomplete or missing design documents. There are many others, but I want to highlight these two because the losses were so significant. So the second topic I want to cover that is important to review prior to starting on site is the contract itself. Now, having a contract that's fair and equitable to both parties and doesn't favour one party over the other is less likely to result in disputes between parties. When we're reviewing the contract, we want to be reviewing the main clauses of the contract agreement, which include variations, extensions of time, the payment, the liquidated damages, and latent conditions. We also want to be ensuring that there's no unfair terms, that the parties to the contract are aware of their rights and obligations that need to be performed, and that the contract is wholly in writing. Doing this will result in the contract being fair and less likely to end in a dispute. I've been involved in 2 projects where the contract unfavorably favoured one party, and in both cases there were disputes between the parties, and in one instance the dispute ended up in court. Now, this costs money, and it also redirects people's focus from their task of construction to administering the contract and trying to reduce the losses incurred for a project. So the third topic that we're going to discuss are the costings for the project. When we're reviewing the costings for the project, we want to ensure that all the documents have been considered, that the conditions of the site have been taken into account, and the location of the infrastructure services as well. And getting the costing right at the start of a project will save on time and will save on disputes between the builder and the developer. If the project is running at a loss, the builder is more likely to submit variations for the work, or try and find variations where there are no variations, or submit variations for a higher cost than the actual cost of the work. So the fourth topic we're going to cover in the video is the builder's capability and their capacity to complete the works. So when we're reviewing the builder's capability, we want to have a look at the previous projects that they've completed and ensure they've done works in the past that are similar to your project. We don't want to be in a situation where the builder is making mistakes and learning on your project, because this costs time and it also costs money. We also want to check the builder's staff's capability as well to ensure those project staff have also completed works that are similar in the past. Checking the finances of the builder is also very important. We don't want to be left in a situation where the builder goes into administration during the construction and the developer is left in a situation where another builder needs to be found to complete the works. Now, I've been involved in a project in the past where this has happened, and it resulted in losses in time and losses in money for the project. So the builder went to administration, the developer was required to go and find another builder to finish the works. Now, it took time to go through a tender process to locate the builder to finish the work, and there's also resulted in additional costs because the builders know that there's a risk involved in taking on another builder's works. This is also highlights the importance of, when you're assessing progress claims, not to overpay the builder during the early stages of a project. Okay, so this brings us to the end of the video. I also want to make a special mention about the approvals and the builder's insurances. So it's important that all the approvals are in place to reduce the likelihood of fines on site, and it's also important that the builder's insurances reflect the value of the works that need to be completed for the project. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I wish you all the best and good luck with your project.